Welcome to Blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Sirus and Maryssa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, welcome to Blamestorming. I'm Maryssa Smith. As always, I've got Dave Sirus with me. And I've got David Spector with me.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
And I've got Jermey Pinsley with me.
Howdy.
So, Dave, how have you been?
Good. Glad to be surrounded by Jews, everyone.
It feels
Bearded
good.
Jews. What else do you get in New York? How do you feel about this, Maryssa? This is your type, right? You like Jew boys.
Who doesn't?
I mean, my first fiance was.
Right, we've talked about this. This wasn't just an assumption I made based on your glasses.
Doesn't like him too much. He's not still with him.
I don't know anything about their relationship. I'm going to assume he was the one who ended it. So, anyway, guys, David and Jeremy are both New York comedians, like literally all of our guests.
This is true.
The only difference is Jeremy. No, never mind. I take it back. You both roast battle. So I've seen you both roast battling, which means once again, that's pretty much the only people I talk to in New York.
The roast battlers. I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, I know. I remember you did Daniel Parafan.
Yeah,
that was because I was on the same one I was on, and you won because they were upset with how much he was calling you racist.
Yeah, that was like his whole angle. He was like, let's just make this guy racist. And it kind of worked for a while, but then when you beat the horse too much, it's like you gotta change your strategy.
To be honest, the audience liked it. It was just the judges.
Yeah, the audience did. I remember that, yeah.
They love racism. Well, also because it's like, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of racist jokes and then be like, this is what he's thinking. I'm going to say a bunch of terrible things about black people and be like, and by the way, that's what he thinks. So I'm a hero.
That was the whole thing. It was like, you're the asshole here.
Oh, Parafan's whole thing on you was that you're racist. That's his thing on everybody. He just calls everyone racist.
Well, yeah, but he always faces white guys, and it's always true.
Yeah, that's
so
also,
are you saying I'm racist?
When Parafan's around, it's hard not to be.
Well, I mean, Parafan he looks white, but he's not. So he's well, that's when someone's not actually he's Latino, but he looks white, which is what they call sneaky.
It's also what they call the Jews. So
yeah, we earned that pretty good though. But of course, you know why Jews are called sneaky? Where it comes from? It's because in biblical times, well, later biblical times, Jews were the only people who were allowed to charge usury, were allowed to charge interest.
Yeah.
Christians were not allowed to charge interest on loans. So all Christians stopped giving loans because, that was someone's great idea to be like, oh, we're going to get rid of interest and everyone will be happy because no one will lend money anymore. And people are like, well, we still need to borrow money. So the fact that we were willing to be the only people lending money made us bad human beings.
That sounds like an opportunist to me, not sneaky.
And by the way, people are so mad about Jews lending money. We didn't even have the power to collect. Like, we were living in countries where we had no governmental power. So they're mad about basically being shamed about the money you didn't give back. There's not even like a government power or like a Pinkerton to fuck you up if you don't pay back, which, of course, is where blood libel comes from. You know what blood libel is?
I do not.
I do.
Bad Jews. Well, okay, so David does. Blood libel is, of course, in medieval Europe. Whenever someone owed a lot of money to a Jew, instead of paying it back, sometimes they would kill a baby and then say, well, a baby's dead. Obviously, the Jews did this because they were out of matzah, and they had to use the baby's blood to make the matzah. So then they would go around and kill all the Jews in town, and guess what that means? Everyone who owes money to a Jew loves this idea. And here's the problem with blood libel. So that's where the idea...
There's a few.
There's a problem?
Maybe two.
Yes, there is a problem.
Okay.
Because this isn't just historical. There are still places now that teach people that Jews have to eat. So right now in like Pakistan, there are schools where they still teach about the way that Jews ate babies in medieval Europe.
With a fork and a knife.
Well, it depends on when, because the fork, of course, came from Italy in medieval times. So before that, people did it with their hands, which, by the way, was considered very effeminate, eating with a fork.
Huh. I was just surprised to learn Pakistan has an education system.
Oh, jeez. That is way over the line. But yeah, no, when they first invented forks, people were basically like, these Italians, because they're eating pasta.
Yeah.
They obviously, and pasta came from China originally. Noodles came from China, where they were using sticks, which work fine for that. And they were like, "Oh, we figured out this thing where we just put these prongs on the end of a stick." And to like the British people watching these Italians eat, they were just like, "What are you afraid of your food? You won't even touch it with your hands, you pansy." It was like the most dainty thing they could ever imagine. Like, oh, don't want to touch your food, huh?
Well. Have you ever seen somebody really good at twirling pasta and they use a spoon and all that? Yeah, that is like kind of a very like beautiful, kind of effeminate gesture. Just seeing somebody do that.
Huh? I never thought
it's like
of that.
spinning silk or something.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I've never done that because we're Americans, we don't have time for that nonsense.
Yeah, the spoon, that's unnecessary.
Yeah, we have to just shovel this into our faces. I mean, who uses a spoon at dinner anyway?
Yeah,
it's always
ridiculous.
just there. You never use it.
Put it
you
on
might
your
have
nose.
soup.
But don't they have But don't you usually have different spoons? There's a soup spoon,
There's a
but then the
teaspoon.
non-soup spoon.
And then they take the spoon away. That if you're at a nice restaurant, they take the spoon away and then set out the new silverware.
Well, I've never been
It's
to a
like a
nice
table
restaurant.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
take you out one night. It's a great experience.
I don't live that kind of life, Jeremy. Thank you.
If you think I'm doing this every night, it's not.
Yeah. So now, Jeremy, you're from the South, right?
Yeah, from Nashville.
Yeah, which is kind of the South. It's like, I mean, it is the South, but it's not exactly what people think of as redneck territory. It's Nashville. It's a very metropolitan
There's
city.
There's a lot of liberalness.
So you've done Zanies, I assume.
Yeah,
I did Zanies a few times. Great.
Oh, it's such a great room.
Yeah, like if you make fun of like, if you do jokes about like, being the first Jew they've ever seen, there's definitely like several Jews in the crowd. Like, you can't really.
Well, every time I go there, I know a lot of Jews that are there, so I can't play that card at all.
Well, I mean, there's not that there's no Jews in the South, but we're going to stick to the major cities. Anywhere we can blend into a crowd. Usually something near like a port. If we need to, flee.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I loved about Nashville is like 15, 20 minutes around the city is all suburbs and there's open-mindedness. You go like an extra 10 minutes outside of that radius and you're in complete redneck territory.
That's what I liked about Austin, because everyone in Texas talks about Austin like it's the gathering of the juggalos, like it's just the biggest hippie thing. And then you go to Austin and you're like 80% of these people wearing cowboy hats. Like this is still mostly Texas. This is like Texas with, a kid in art school.
Yeah, that's what it is. But that's what makes Austin beautiful.
But they talk about Austin like it is a collection of freaks. And it is like anyone from New York goes to Austin, it's going to take them a little while to figure out it's Austin. Or that this is considered like the liberal part of Texas.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like you still have that redneck culture permeates every aspect of it, but it's just kind of watered down with some of the more liberal-minded people. So it kind of creates an alternative scene in those cities.
Yes, watered down. Or, in another way, spiked.
Spiked.
Could be the other way around.
Yes, I like that.
David, are you from New York?
Long Island, New York, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to guess that. I don't know anything about your background. I'm just looking at the beard, the curly hair, the aggressive Judaism and thinking Long Island.
I just want to make it clear to your listeners, I'm not Hasidic. You made me sound very Hasidic. I'm just disheveled.
Yeah, no, I get that. But the thing is, all the non-Orthodox Jews have beards now, and it's becoming harder and harder. Like, I feel like we're only a few years away from hipsters having payas.
Oh, for sure.
Payas, Maryssa, is the sideburns that Orthodox Jews have.
I realize that, Dave.
Even they want money. They're called payas.
Ah.
Does it make me a bad Jew that I didn't know that? I was like, yeah, pay us. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, you're already
You're
a
from
Southern
Nashville.
Jew.
Yeah, I already.
That probably kept you alive not knowing that.
Oh, it did. 100%.
Yeah. 'Cause I live in an all-Orthodox. I'm the only non-Orthodox Jew on my block.
Really?
Yeah, I
Are
live
you
in-
in Williamsburg?
No, I'm in Midwood.
Oh, shit.
I'm basically like Gravesend, which was once the most Jewish part of New York, and now is like the fourth most. Now, like that's the amazing thing. There's more Orthodox Jews in Williamsburg, in like Bay Parkway, and like Midwood, which is like that's where Crazy Eddie hid out for decades. You remember the story of Crazy Eddie? Crazy Eddie had
His
prices are insane.
All right.
He used
Oh,
to
yeah.
Electronic stores.
Like, even though it's a long time ago, it really permeated culture. Like, it was in Howard the Duck. Like, everyone made fun of Crazy Eddie. Crazy Eddie didn't pay his taxes and then just hid amongst the Jews for years. Because you could do that. They will hide you. We are basically the Amish.
Oh, yeah. And also, like, the Hasidic Jews are kind of manipulating the welfare laws and the tax laws and stuff like that.
Well, number one, that is true. But number two, I would venture to say that isn't everyone on some level manipulating the welfare laws if they're receiving it? Not that they shouldn't. Not that it's, a crime or that it's malfeasant.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't really get welfare unless you are. Okay, so you're saying you're saying they're using it like when they don't really need it?
Sort of. What they'll do is that to get around it, like they'll have religious weddings, but they won't have like a wedding at a courthouse. So when they have all their kids, they're considered like not part of a married family.
Oh, like polygamists.
Yeah, exactly. And then they'll get all this
interesting.
like welfare for their kids, where if they had like a legal marriage, they wouldn't be receiving it.
So what can we do about this Jewish problem in welfare? Is there any kind of like
Solution?
long-term or
Dave, why do you hate the Jews so much?
end game? Is there some sort
Something
of
final.
Is there something that we can do to, just not have to deal with it anymore? That's all. Yeah, they're gonna love this. Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of Orthodox Jews are listening to anti-Trump podcasts because they all love him. Because they are the biggest hypocrites in the history of Judaism.
Do they really? I didn't know that.
100% of the Jews,
man.
of the Orthodox Jews I've interacted with, not only love Trump, they love him because this is what I realized. There's really two kinds of Jews. There's ones who said never again and thought that meant never again allow a tyrant to wipe out a class of people. And then the other kind of Jews who heard never again and said, no, that means never again let anyone hurt the Jews.
Yeah.
And that's what all the Orthodox that I have interacted with seem to like. They just want to protect us.
Yeah.
They don't want to protect people. And which
But
sucks
would
about that
they
because the
consider
Anti-Defamation
you
League.
to be like a Jew though, because you're not
Yes and no.
Orthodox.
They don't consider us real Jews, but they still consider us more of people than other people. Like there's a sliding scale of how human you are. Like that's why they don't get out of the way when you're like walking past. Like if you're riding a bike or something, they won't like. Like they really, some of them really do have a kind of it's us versus them. And yeah, like you're not, as a Reformed Jew, you're not really Jewish, but you could be. That's the thing. Any of us could start acting like Orthodox Jews and be immediately accepted into the community.
Yeah.
So that's what separates us from other people.
You still have potential.
Yeah.
I would be found out in 5 minutes. I'd be like, hey, right, guys? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. They want all of people like us, the non-religious Jews, to join them. So they're always going to have that hope. And that's the amazing thing is that they have no problem pimping out their kids. Like I've had these guys be like, "You should come to a party we're having." Like they just don't know me. They just know that I am a Jewish looking stranger, and they're like, "You should come to And I'm basically like, "I don't think you want me becoming interested in your daughters. It's just not going to work." Like they think that their kids are like, "My daughter's very sexy. He'll change his whole life for a piece of her."
I've had because I've been to some Hasidic weddings, and I've always had that fantasy of meeting a girl at the other side of the wall, and then be just getting her out of that lifestyle or
Fucking
something.
her in the bathroom, just ruining her, making it so their parents won't take her back, that sort of thing. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
David?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend who was normal, and then he became an Orthodox Jew, but became it not in the good way. Started just immediately was just evolution is a lie, and everyone's against us, and Marvel Comics is just one big anti-Jewish conspiracy. And I'm like, it's all Jews there. Everyone there is a freaking Jew. What are you talking about? Magneto's a villain, and he has horns, and he's Jewish. So why did they give him horns? And I'm just like, right, you're right. They should have ethnically cleansed all the characters and made sure that no Jew can do wrong. Because not that this, it's like, what? I was like, do I need to give you the names of the people who created these characters?
I love how big a role Marvel Comics had in his journey into Orthodox Judaism. He's as mad about that as he is about Palestine.
Yeah, no, I mean it was really sad because he was one of these guys who got really into Bill Hicks. But then his life was horrible, and he was like, well, I guess I'm not as better than everyone else as I thought I was. Got to find a new way to convince myself I'm superior.
Is it because Magneto can take all your Jew gold? He's the only one.
That's true.
Yeah. Grab it.
But then, of course, some writer, probably Jewish, did change Magneto at one point from a Jew to a gypsy. Because someone probably complained that the villain was
taking
Jewish.
All the precious metals.
And they're like, well, they kill gypsies too. Can you make him one of those? Yeah, fine. Also, make sure we put that pronounced Jewish star on Kitty Pryde anytime she's drawn. For a while, she always had a Jewish star on her neck. And I was like, oh, man, Marvel Comics in the 80s is becoming oppressively Jew-run.
Is that why Magneto just started panhandling so much when he became Gypsy?
Yeah, well, he started to steal.
Yeah.
Right?
He had an accordion with him in all his battles.
Wow. Yeah, he had a grind, had a little monkey. Is that that's more an Italian thing, I guess. But.
Yeah, the grinder.
You can't even say gypsy anymore. That's like offensive.
Not to them.
No,
don't
like
they still
I've
call
definitely
themselves gypsies?
You can't say it. Like I've had,
but they still use it
Roma,
for
right?
themselves, right?
It's you have to use Roma now, like because like gypsies like the N word now.
Well, I thought that Roma is simply the largest gypsy population, but not all gypsies are Romanian.
No, they're not necessarily all Romanian, but you're supposed to be using Roma to describe them now because like gypsy is considered like an ethnic slur now.
So you're supposed to say Roma steal.
You know, I mean, I'm sure that they don't necessarily. I guess it would be like Roma, like reappropriate property. I don't know. But
well, the bit only works.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
There you go.
The bit only works if we're not all racist at once. It really has to be a point counterpoint here.
But America needs to come together.
Can you imagine like a Gypsy Chris Rock? Like there's a war going on between Gypsy and Roma.
I hate gypsies, but I love Roma.
I love it.
You know who wrote that bit?
Who?
You guys haven't heard this?
No, I always hoped it was Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Well, Chris had writers. I mean, he wrote a lot of good stuff. I don't know this for sure, but I've heard through comedians that that bit that everyone loved, the N-words and black people bit that everyone's famous for Chris Rock, that it was written by a white comic who knew he couldn't do it.
Oh.
And he's also a white comic. According to the rumor I've heard, multiple people like to make his employees watch him jerk off. Yeah, it's Louis. It was Louis.
No.
Yeah, I have heard specifically.
I needed one more hint after that one.
He's a Jew.
It's like now
Mexican Jew. Does that do it?
What do y'all think about his situation?
We don't like to talk about current events here.
Let's go back to Marvel and the Jews.
Well, Louis, so Louis back. Louis is doing comedy again, and a lot of people are surprised. Specifically, the same people who were shocked when in '94 Superman came back to life after dying in the comics, and they were like, "What? I thought he was dead." Like, did you really think he wasn't going to go back to? Now, there's two schools of thought here that I have. One. What does this say? Is this a reflection on other people being Me Too'd? Obviously, the worse thing you did, the more you should be punished. And it's not. And Louis' case, Louis was doing things that I think a lot of people agree were wrong, but he wasn't doing like jail time wrong or getting sued for everything you have wrong. Which those like there's jail time, there's getting sued, and there's losing your career. Those like the three levels of like how bad you can do something, right? And the argument that I kind of heard that I thought made sense was that, like, Louis was the biggest comedian alive, right? Basically. If he, like, his only job, he has kids, he's going to figure out a way of making a living. He's going to try to. And obviously I get why people are upset because he should pay. He created hostile work environments. He took advantage of people. He did things with women he worked with that he should have done with hookers like a gentleman. But here's my question. Is doing stand-up live, and that's it, is that the punishment? If he had to go from being a megastar, doing theaters, being on TV, doing movies, to just doing actual brick-and-mortar shows, is that kind of... I mean, I do think it's too soon, but I'm saying, is that kind of the punishment we thought this was going to end with?
I think all forms of stand-up comedy are a punishment. So...
Nice.
I mean,
The other comics.
We're all
People
the
who
seventh
want
ring
comics
of
are like,
hell.
what is he talking about? That seems so much fun.
Yeah.
We're all doing penance for something.
I mean, it's that's kind of like what happened to TJ Miller. Like now he just does bar shows.
He also
like,
just did the Emoji Movie, so he's sitting on all this money.
Yeah.
that he got.
Classic, by the way.
He got a terrible. He basically, I mean, T.J. Miller got outed for something that was already common knowledge with a lot of comics. I'd heard this since he was first famous that he punched a woman in college. Because that was something that people knew in the college. Now the thing with that is
The beer bottle thing is the thing that I thought was the
what beer bottle thing.
that was part of like the whole thing is that he also like he not only like punched his ex-girlfriend but allegedly he like jammed a beer bottle in her hoo-ha.
That was Fatty Arbuckle. You're thinking of Fatty Arbuckle.
No, TJ Miller did too. He arbuckled her.
Funny thing about Fatty Arbuckle, thinner than T.J. Miller. Not kidding. Not joking. Fatty Arbuckle was only Fatty Arbuckle by comparison to the times. Today, he would be regular-sized Arbuckle.
Same with like Elvis. His like meltdown of gaining all that weight, he would be standard now.
If Jim Belushi right now looked like Elvis the day before he died, everyone would be saying, wow, look at Jim Belushi. Look who pulled himself out of the gutter. So, yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, and that's, yeah, so like, so TJ managed to get outed right after doing a movie that should have ended his career anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a perfect storm for him to get out on. But he was still in Deadpool 2, which probably was already filmed.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was filmed before like this even happened. It's I can't condemn people for not throwing away movies because a minor character later did something wrong. Like I feel bad for anyone who was in a movie with Kevin Spacey. Like I feel bad because you didn't know he did something wrong. But what Kevin did was of course objectively worse
Oh yeah.
than the other people. So there is a different scale. People just it's hard to look at Kevin Spacey. But at the same time, are we going to say that you can't watch any movie he was ever in? That would be a little much, wouldn't it? I mean, we can't enjoy
I don't
monsters.
know. I don't watch any I'm like losing his name. Woody Allen. I don't watch anything Woody Allen at all.
Is that because of the accusation, though, or would you?
You're married to your daughter. Like that's disgusting.
She wasn't his daughter.
We go through this every time.
Yeah, because you keep accepting that it's true and then repeating it the next time we talk about it.
You keep denying that it's true.
How is she his daughter?
Like adoptive daughter, or was raised as a daughter. Like
Of who?
Of Woody Allen.
But she wasn't raised in the same house as him. He never adopted her.
You ever see the picture of them at the Knicks game together?
I've seen them at the Knicks. I used to go to Knicks games. I would see them there all the time. Yeah.
No, there's
I'm not saying it's not creepy. I'm just saying when you say it was his daughter,
Well,
you're deciding to say something that isn't what the actual accusation is.
Well, look this up later. There's a picture of him and his before they were married wife at a Knicks game. She's sitting on his lap. She's maybe 8 years old. So the idea that he wasn't a father figure to her.
Well, no,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was her mother's boyfriend. Yeah.
But
Okay.
like still was a father figure to her.
No. Yes. Figure.
But it's
different.
just,
He
like,
was
but
not her
still,
father.
I mean, not biological.
What about-
but if this is the only person you refer to as your dad, that's your dad.
Do we know that she called him dad?
She called him daddy. It's a
No, daddy,
Thank
like
you.
Ivanka.
Daddy.
I love you, Daddy.
Thank you.
big difference.
No, look, it's still creepy and horrible.
And there's the
Didn't he
Dylan
just-
thing too, which is much
Yeah,
worse.
and that's the,
Oh, of course.
the other
That
thing.
look, he either did that or he didn't. And if he did it, he should have spent the rest of his life in jail.
Yeah.
And if he didn't, he shouldn't. The problem is that's a situation that is very difficult to really decide what's true because one of the children said he was there the whole day. There's no possible way it happened. Another child says they believe her story. The biggest problem, though, is that an adult woman who says she was sexually assaulted is almost certainly telling the truth.
Yeah.
There's a small percentage that wouldn't be telling the truth, but the vast majority of all sexual assault accusations are true. Adult women don't have problems with implanted memories. Children do. The satanic panic of the 80s showed us that it's very easy to get a small child to actually believe they were molested with the right kind of coaching. And a judge threw out that case because he said he found evidence of that coaching. That doesn't mean that Woody Allen's innocent.
Yeah.
I would say, if I had to guess, I would say he probably did it. Simply because anyone who's accused of a sexual crime, more likely than not, that case is probably true because the vast majority are true. But that case is really ambiguous. And when you have multiple conflictions there, I'm not comfortable saying this is someone I know did this. I don't have an adult saying I saw something or it happened to me. So I think he may very well have done it, probably did it, but it's nowhere near enough for me to like say I'm going to condemn this person. Now, at the same time, I don't know if you've seen his last 16 movies.
Yeah, it's like they're so...
It's kind of a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a good movie since Sweet and Lowdown.
That was his best movie.
Jesus Christ, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
It's so infuriatingly good. And then before that was Deconstructing Harry. Was also ridiculously good.
Great movie.
But I mean, good God, the man puts out a lot of crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's difficult. And I think that it's weird to expect anyone to decide 100% when it's that much of something you can't know.
I love how we started with like all these fake Jewish stereotypes through history and then just transitioned into every bad thing a Jew has done in our society.
It's funny you say that because I was just going to say that's pretty much all of it. We've pretty much gone through everything negative we can be attributed to.
We didn't talk about Harvey Weinstein.
I wanted to make one more comment.
He's
on
no
Louis.
true Jew. I'm going to use that one now.
Oh, I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. I just wanted to add on Louis because Aparna Non-Charla wrote a really good article and shared some good stuff. And it was like, yeah, no, I believed he definitely deserved a comeback time, but I felt like he rushed it. And then he did a joke about a rape whistle. It's kind of like when you tell a kid he has to go to timeout, and the idea is when you're in timeout, you analyze yourself, you realize you made a mistake, and you come back and you show us that you learned something. And this guy goes in hiding, comes back, and then does a rape joke.
It was too soon. It was too soon. It was no.
Yeah.
There was. I'm not denying at all. It was too soon. But
Me
it's
too
also
soon.
disappointing. Yes, me too soon.
Yeah.
Great job, David.
Hashtag it. Hashtag it.
That's why you're the darling of the Fight Club. Permanent Fight Club scene. It was definitely too soon, but it was also especially disappointing that he did stand up without addressing it.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I'm the only person who thinks he should. I think he should address it, not during his act. Because if you analyze that, to me at least, he's accused of sexual assault.
Harassment.
Harassment.
He's not accused of assault. He's accused of harassment, sure.
So then he goes up and then gets laughs and possibly applause over the harassment he committed. Like, that to me is really I know, like, Nanette set the standard of comedy being talking seriously about rape and nothing else, but that's not what he's going to do. He's going to tell jokes.
You don't go and talk about the rape. You talk about what you learned, and you find a way to make that funny, and then you enlighten people that were following you, and you now show people that you're going to use your power for good. It's all about showing that you change. So.
But
Yeah, that's like the prior model. Like when he came back after like he was set on fire from like freebasing, then he like kind of told a story about what happened. It was very funny.
Yeah.
But he addressed the idea of what had happened.
Of
and,
course,
like, you know.
let's not forget the fact that that was a lie, though. Richard Pryor lied when he said he set himself on fire freebasing. He years later acknowledged he tried to kill himself. And he said it was freebase. But he said, no, I tried to kill myself because I couldn't stop doing cocaine. So that wasn't at the time, it was a brilliant thing he was doing. But in retrospect, it was him just putting up an act to try to salvage his career. At the same time, he didn't hurt anyone else. So I don't think he needed to have the apology that Louis does.
Well, Pryor beat his wife, and he talked about that in his act. So
Yeah, I forgot about that. I haven't seen all of Pryor's specials, to be honest.
it's hard
I
to.
think I've only seen Live at the Sunset, to be honest.
Yeah, I
with
saw live.
Yeah.
I saw that, and that's the one with the milk and cookies.
Yeah.
Right.
you.
Yeah.
And apparently the night before that special, he like bombed terribly.
Yeah.
and like came
Yeah.
back, and then like I mean, you hit a low and then you hit your high, so it's kind of.
It's sort of a dirty secret in comedy how like he's by far the most universally respected comic, and I know so many comics who can't sit through his act. And there are a lot of comics who will threaten to fucking kill you if you tell them you can't watch a Richard Pryor special.
Yeah, you're not a comic anymore.
I know of one person who actually said like just had a screaming fit at someone. This was an older comic, just like a screaming tantrum over someone saying respectfully, I just never really get into it.
But the generation before.
And by the way, if you want to guess who that comic is, I promise you'll figure it out within like 3 guesses. Go on.
Well, the generation before that is Lenny Bruce, right? Like, I don't think I could listen to Lenny Bruce.
Yeah,
It's impossible to laugh at Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
It is. I defy you to laugh at a Lenny Bruce special now. I mean, he was dealing with so much repression that like there was so much tension in the air that it was so easy to break it and make a joke out of something. They weren't puzzle jokes. They were just like, there's all this tension. I'm just going to say the things I'm not supposed to say, and you're all going to be like fluttered. Everyone's going to get the vapors and can't believe I'm willing to use that word in a nightclub.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of comments like, I don't like his stuff, but he opened doors for us, so that's kind of like...
Which is fine. I mean, he did.
Yeah.
I don't like Larry Flint's stuff either, but I appreciate what he did for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
I happen to think Hustler is the grossest porno magazine in the history of the world.
Oh, God, I saw it as a kid. It changed. I was like, what the fuck? It was
What's
so
the
graphic.
difference between like Hustler and Playboy?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, let's get into this. So you've never actually seen like a real Hustler.
No.
And we were all children at the birth of the internet. So like, sometimes you ended up with a magazine, I'm sure when you were a little kid, if it was harder to find it that way. Little boys really went out of their way to find porno. Every little boy in the 80s has a story about finding like a water-damaged penthouse in the woods. Yeah. Like that is so much weirdly more common than people understand.
And weirdly, they come in a collection, too. Like, it's like you found like 7 of them.
Yeah,
so
someone like dumped their porno in the woods knowing some kids would find it and you would save their lives. So Playboy was, first of all, there was all the airbrushing. They didn't even look like people. Yeah. Like, everyone looked like plastic. But even that was still, but it was still like respectable. It was like.
It was a tasteful
women were not like, shoving things into themselves or just they weren't like positioning themselves like a real sex position. It was more like a halfway, because Playboy was always like trying to hold on to that almost Victorian idea of like what a woman should act like, but she's naked.
Celebrating a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Well, that and it was like for intellectuals. It was that's how Hefner kind of marketed it. It's like it's jacking off for smart guys.
Yeah, and people would say I read it for the articles.
Jacking off for smarties.
Well, because people would say I read it for the articles, but in reality, Playboy actually did have like some of the best writers of the time in magazines. They had like a lot of very famous literature was first published in Playboy, which is such a funny thing to remember. So Hustler, on the other hand, Hustler was about getting girls who would have not even been allowed to audition for Playboy, girls who would not have gotten through the door, just straight up spreading their vaginas for an extreme close up, like just close ups of assholes, pictures of a woman like bent over with then a guy with like a like a Groucho Marx nose and mustache glasses pointing at it like, hey, look at this. They would have parody cartoons, like, remember how Mad Magazine had Spy versus Spy? They would have cartoons just like that, only instead of Spy versus Spy, it's Jew versus Jew, and the giant noses were the noses of the Jews, and that was like a funny thing that would be in Hustler. Hustler was...
Oh, was that a real thing in Hustler?
Yes.
Oh, you weren't supposed to jack off to that part?
Well, I tried.
I did.
Hustler was...
Those noses were sexy.
Hustler was the gross mechanics version of Playboy. It was Playboy for people who would read. It was Playboy for people who open a Playboy and just be like, "Excuse me, I didn't go to Yale. I'm just trying to get my dick hard."
So it's like
a lot of hard dicks
the
in it,
Playboy
too.
for like Trump voters.
Yeah, it was.
It's like it's not for the guy who's out to the strip club the one time a year with his friends as like some sort of bachelor party. It's for the guy who eats wings at the buffet of the strip club.
Yeah.
With no sneeze guard.
Yeah. Hustler was like the magazine
So where does Penthouse fall into that?
in between.
Yeah.
Penthouse is literally exactly in between those. Because Penthouse wouldn't have like the extremely over the top like racism and like gross jokes, but like Hustler was like the guy who listens to Howard Stern but likes everything about Howard Stern except the jokes. Like
belittle those women a little more, Howard.
Yeah,
Come on.
a guy who hates the interviews and the bits. He just wants to hear abuse, hear retarded people talk, and just hear just blanket racism.
Hot dogs at her tits. Throw hot dogs at her tits.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of guy who listened to Opie and Anthony and was bitterly on Anthony's side of everything.
Yeah.
And thought Opie was the pussy ruining all the fun. The kind of guy who listens to Compound Media with Anthony Cumia now and says, "This is what I was waiting for that show to become."
It's Anthony Cumia. It's just what he reads.
Except Anthony Cumia is, I would say, on the much smarter end of the hustler. Anthony Cumia, to me, even though he's definitely not this guy, he reminds me of like Tool fans. Because like there's an old joke about how like everyone who listened to the band Tool was either really smart or really stupid.
Yeah.
He's on the smart side of that. He's like the smart side of like the Led Zeppelin fan who doesn't want to know anything but knows a lot of trivia. And he's on that end, but like then becomes a gigantic asshole who just wants to drink and rant about how black people are savages.
Jesus.
You know, I've been on Opie and Anthony, which is like really frustrating because that was before like he emerged as that guy.
Yeah.
Where like Opie was more in charge and Anthony was kind of like, I just want to entertain people. And then he suddenly just became this just racist drunk.
Well, it was kind of like in his downfall, what he got fired for, he kind of discovered this audience who was going to support him through that. And then now that's how he butters his bread, is with that stuff.
Well, yeah, it was kind of I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They say, well, look, if we're not going to get these people, we can take advantage of all the people who are on the complete other side of it.
Yeah.
Which actually brings up a story I wanted to talk about today, the Florida governor race. So you know about now. There's two major race aspects of this story. There's the questionable racism. And there's the ridiculous over-the-top racism. The two sides of that are, of course, Gillum, who is a very progressive African-American candidate, and then there's DeSantis, who is a Trump-loving, super hardcore right-wing conservative, which I do believe is going to become an endangered species very soon. I think the Republican Party is going to be like the Federalists. They're going to fucking stop existing.
Oh,
after this whole thing craters.
No, they're going to outlive us all.
They're going to crater.
No.
Lindsey Graham will survive, but all the people who were the Trump wing of the party are going to die.
No, they're going to completely take over. The Republican Party
disagree.
dies every single election. Oh, that's it for them. And they always come roaring back with
like
something
this.
worse.
But they were able to throw Bush under the bus. But don't forget, all the people who were the hardcore Bush Republicans, they weren't the ones who stayed. It then became Tea Party bullshit.
Yeah.
The neocons did go. I'm saying there might be a Republican Party, but also what they did before was nowhere near the amount of treason we're talking about now. I think the Jim the people, the Jim Jordans,
the McCain Republicans are going to die. Like
No.
those,
Whoa,
I think
I think that is
Exact
the party.
opposite.
That's like the
Like-
I think Mitt Romney
those-
is going to become the new leader of the party when this is all over.
No, that's just a liberal wet dream. It's never going to happen.
Oh, no, the liberal wet dream is that they get completely decimated and the Democrats become the middle party and then an emerging party comes on the left of that. But
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that would be
I think
what I would
more
prefer.
than two parties.
I
Yeah.
think that this ends with I think people are a little too pessimistic about the real world coming back. I think a lot of people are worried that the real world is going to reassert itself, and I think it is.
I
don't think this is forever now.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the reason Trump. I mean, don't people act like. Yeah, him versus Hillary was weird as fuck, but he also beat like 16 Republicans on his way up there. And that's because nobody fucking likes those guys.
Well,
he
it's
was
because-
speaking to the people who were there.
It was because the Republican Party sought out the unhinged, mentally ill, hateful aspect of the country and never expected that they would have a tipping point where they took over. They thought that they were going to be the useful idiots who they could just keep in tow, and then suddenly Trump grew out of that swamp.
I agree with that, but I also think that the mainstream Republican, like, their policies are not popular. No one was ever voting for them on
That's
their...
why it's a culture war.
Yeah,
They
it's
think-
always been culture war. And, like, the Trump people have always been a bigger aspect of it. I also think that the supposedly respectable Republicans, probably if you get them behind, and Democrats too, I'm sure, but get them behind closed doors will sound a lot more like Trump. And then the rich people who may not, well, they get their tax cut. So it's a vibrant, it's a strong coalition.
I think that's a coalition that could have survived forever if Trump had not blown it up. I think Trump is ruining it for his own ego, and they all recognize that, and they're all just holding on. They're white-knuckling this presidency, hoping that there's a light, and the light at the end of the rainbow is going to be when they are like, okay, how can we salvage our careers while condemning Trump after it really craters? It's going
they
to
seem
crater.
to
now.
rather just not run again than actually try to like salvage their careers by opposing him, because like all of these like mainstream Republicans that kind of rode the wave like to Trumpville, they're all just like, you know something, I'm not going to run again.
That's an all or nothing. That's because it's an all or nothing statistic of whether or not Trump's endorsement helps you or hurts you. As time goes on, as the situation gets worse, it is going to hurt them. And the second that happens, it's not going to be subtle.
Oh,
it's
that
going to be
day
all
is
at once.
always around the corner. It's always going to happen tomorrow.
The investigation isn't done yet. And we have not seen any of the evidence behind it. He's already at like 40-60 in terms of people's approval, and
which is normal for a president at this point.
It's a little low.
We haven't heard the other side of the story.
That's what Obama had at this point.
60. He never had disapprovals this high. He has. The approvals are only a little bit lower than a typical president. The disapprovals are off the charts. And this approval he's getting is because of Republicans who are just pretending they don't see what's going on. It's not like he's getting the independents. It's just about the base.
Yeah, no, the base is with him. The entire Republican Party.
These people are gonna go back to their basements. This is just about the lowest half asserting itself and thinking they can reverse the concept of intelligence. But the thing is, everything they're doing in terms of taking advantage of those people and trying to have a fake culture war, it could have worked if Trump didn't ruin it. Like I said this previously, one of the favorite jokes I ever wrote on SNL was Ted Cruz saying in a rebuke of Trump, "The Republican Party does not say racist things. We imply them over decades of careful dog whistles. You don't just say it out loud. He's blowing up our spot."
That joke really does hit at it where the calculus for so long was that the Democrats had to shift right because people were voting Republican on their policies. They weren't. It was the dog whistle party.
Yeah. Now, speaking of dog whistles, back to what we were saying, it actually goes directly to it.
Yeah.
There's the two sides of the racism of this governor's race.
Yes.
First, there was the fact that DeSantis said, "Let's not monkey around." Now,
monkey this up.
Excuse me. Thank you. Let's not monkey this up. Now, on one hand, this is a Trump guy.
Yeah.
So it is very reasonable to accuse him of dog whistling because that's what Trump does. Trump talks out of both sides of his mouth. He says things that everyone knows what he means, but he says them vague enough so that he can call you crazy when you say what obviously they meant.
Sometimes he's very direct. Like the judge who I hear is a Mexican, everyone boos. I mean, there's nothing underneath that. Right.
But dog whistling in terms of saying things that you could say are vague threats.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I was just saying my opinion." You know, it's so there's nothing wrong with saying that DeSantis he's certainly not above. He is a Trump guy.
Yeah.
That being said, I also heard people say it's definitely racist because I've never heard that term before. I've heard monkey this up.
Yeah.
I have heard monkey this up.
I've never heard monkey this up. I've heard monkeying around, but I've never heard monkey this up.
I've definitely heard monkey this up. It's not the most common thing, but it's something I've heard. I'm not saying he didn't use it to be racist. I'm guessing that he probably thought, I can maybe get a few racists to
chuckle
vote
at
that wouldn't have. But it's not like it's crazy to think that that's something you do for votes. Because, of course, the other thing, because that's, I guess, before we get into that, like, are we certain this was racism? I'm going to say same with Woody Allen. I'm like, it's probably that, but I can't be sure. I can't be 100% sure, but I would acquiesce and say I think it is.
I feel like if I was ever in some sort of public contest with someone of a different race, I would try to do my best to avoid all racist connotations unless I was trying to be racist. You know what I mean? Like, how often is this something he says all the time? Let's not monkey this up. He made like a very specific public comment after
Hard
the guy
to
got
imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, white guys, let's stop monkeying. It's like, what? Why are you
best case scenario is that this was an unbelievably stupid thing to not notice you shouldn't have said. But that's not the first time a white politician has said something offensive to black people and then kind of done technically what I said was not offensive. We saw that with the use of the word tar baby. Because the term tar baby has two completely separate connotations. One, it means a sticky situation that anyone who tries to get themselves involved with gets dirty.
Yeah.
And the other is just a flat-out racist term.
Well, that is a problem with the language we have in America is a lot of our like idioms and expressions actually have a racist origin point.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. Things start off not racist and become racist.
Yeah, they get appropriated by racists. Yeah. And so tar baby was an example of that. Something that, yes, you're right. It is not a specifically racist term, but also how the fuck did you not know that would be a problem if you're talking about something that is in any way related to black people and use the term "that's a tar baby"? Like,
What
are you
talking
goddamn kidding? Like, that's so hard to believe that you didn't. Like, it sounds like you were like, huh, watch what I'm going to get away with saying in front of these people right now. And another example of that,
It's like a meow moment where it's like, hey, I bet you can't say this in your speech. And it's like, I'll do it, you know?
Are you familiar with a Nordic term spelled Niggardly?
Oh, that's a word in the English language. It has nothing.
Has
it's
absolutely
nothing.
no
Yeah.
root related to the term Negro or anything.
It's it means you're cheap, like you hoard. You're selfish with something, right?
Yes, it means being cheap.
Yes,
and
I will say niggardly since you guys can't.
I want to say it so bad. So bad I want to say it.
you know, there's nothing wrong with saying it. It's not a racist term. But how does a New York politician not know what's going to happen when he says that into a microphone?
What did you say it means? What's the meaning of the word?
It means cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap. So Jews are very niggardly.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. And no, making it about Jews does not make that okay, Jeremy.
Okay. Now it's double racism.
We're going to isolate that. It's going to ruin your career.
Whatever.
I once in conversation asked a friend, "Can I say this?" And his response, he goes, legally." And I
Now, so the reason I bring all that up is because, that was a case where we're like, I think it's a racist thing. Maybe he made a ridiculous mistake, but at the same time, we know about the robocalls. Are you familiar with the robocalls?
Yes, yeah.
With Gillum. Gillum received, and by the way, can we bring up the actual transcript of the call? Can we get that? It's on the article that we had there.
But I don't think I can open it.
Okay, I'll bring it up.
This is something that I think is coming. I'm sure it happened a lot in the past, but even when Obama was running for president, I didn't hear of anything that hardcore.
Well, I mean, before Obama was running for president, John McCain got robocalls or got literature in Alabama about having an illegitimate black son.
Yeah.
And they were it was a complete fabrication that was simply referring to the fact that he had an adopted, what was it? South Asian
daughter, yeah. So, and it was a push poll that Karl Rove engineered, where people would get a call and be like, "Would you support John McCain less if you found out he had an illegitimate black child?" Which is just like a way to manipulate people. He's saying it, but he's not actually saying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a specifically amazing thing.
But even that is not as bad as the robocall.
No, you're right.
Now.
No, you're right. This robocall was fucking crazy. So I want to bring up the transcript of this because it was, and we don't have the audio of it, so the problem is I'm not comfortable even reading this.
Give it an accent. It won't
accurately, because do you know what the accent was they did it with?
Oh,
it's a white man putting on like a 1930s minstrel voice.
Yeah.
Like a hello, like that hasn't even, a real black person hasn't sounded like that in 100 years.
He was in blackface making the recordings. Just
But I mean, of course,
we
we saw the same thing with Roy Jones. Not Roy Jones. Roy Moore, thank you. With Roy Jones, terrible person too. But Roy Moore had robocalls of someone putting on a fake Jew voice and saying, "Hello, this is Murray I forgot the name. This is Murray Finkelsteinowitz. If you I'm just calling to say that if you want to tell a lie about the great Roy Moore molesting you, I'll give you lots of money." I'm not even that's basically what happened.
Oh, that was fake. I wanted the money. Fuck. He strung me along for months.
Yeah, it was. So, all right, the 70-second pre-recorded message is narrated by a man, what they describe as a caricature of a black dialect with, I didn't know this part, cartoonish jungle noises in the background.
And the actor who did this, Tom Hanks. Poor move, in my opinion.
Now,
his career was going so well.
I'm going to go ahead and assume it's a white man who made the recording. However, if it was a black man that they hired, I would love to hear them trying to find the guy willing to do this. Like have it because you have open call for voiceover auditions, and they're like, "So
it's Kanye West."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Kanye absolutely loves this because he, I don't know if you know this, hates black people. I'm pretty sure Kanye has decided that at some point it's like a psychic said to him, "You're going to have a choice between black people and your mental illness," and he said, "Black who?"
I've got dragon energy.
Let's see. It's unfortunate. It seems like no one wants to just post the actual transcript of
I thought it was
ridiculously racist robocall.
I think it was in the article, but I can't open it because I'm in airplane.
Going off of airplane mode.
Well,
no,
I'm in airplane mode. We have Wi-Fi, so
I'm not on
Stay
Wi-Fi.
in airplane. Don't monkey this up, Jeremy. Don't. But yeah, why don't you guys just talk for a second?
Well, do you want to just take a break and we can come back on this?
We can talk. Who wants to talk U.S. Open tennis? Anyone into that?
I just have one more thought on
yes,
Louis.
she should be allowed to wear whatever she wants. You piece of shit. Sexism and racism, by the way, is what's going on in tennis right now.
What was the racism?
They told her that her cat suit was inappropriate. They told Serena that she couldn't wear her. That she had to change her. She had to wear a tutu because they said just wearing like a leotard was inappropriate.
Like in previous French Opens, women have worn leotards before, but there were white women that wore them, and that was fine.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that was the tie to that.
Yeah. So I think it was like the 80s. There was like a white French player that wore a white cat suit, and that was fine. But then when Serena tried to do it, then they said it wasn't fine. But she also wants to wear it partially for medical reasons because it's a compression suit, and I think she's got some sort of disorder where she's experiencing blood clots.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
so
At this point, Serena Williams gets to do whatever Serena Williams wants. If she wants to go out there and play naked, it's like you're Serena Williams. You deserve whatever you want.
But yeah, no, definitely.
And then there was that other girl who they gave her a warning for changing.
She took her top off and she just had her sports bra on. But that was the U.S. Open to a French tennis player, and so people were saying that they thought that was sexist. But I thought that was more like the U.S. Open being like, oh, the French want to fuck with our girl, we're gonna fuck with your girl. Like I looked at that as being more nationalistic than sexist.
I just thought it was a lapse in judgment.
Well, in France, they all play with their tops off, right? I mean, it's a more liberal European.
I don't know. It's just titties flopping everywhere.
All right,
on the armpits.
By the way, real quick, basically every news article was like, we are not going to dignify this by publishing it. So let's not know what they did wrong. That's great. Let's protect them.
But I think that is also at the Gillum's request. He was like, please don't emphasize this, which I get.
Yeah. Well, the only this article, all it says is the first sentence, which, wow, starts with, well, hello there, in writing. I think we know what that sounded like. I think I said it earlier. So the guy literally opens with the "Well, hello there." They're putting on who even remembers this voice?
And then there, children.
Comma, I is Andrew Gillum. It starts hello. Well, hello there. I is Andrew Gillum, and you can hear the sounds of monkeys in the background.
Not only, I mean, that's incredibly racist, but it feels also very old-fashioned. Are modern racists still throwing that stuff around?
I mean, I guess.
I think if you're making a phone call, it's a fun character to play. It's either that or yo, what's up? But that's a little less.
Well, there's three different generations of racist black voice that almost never really existed. There's that one they started with, the the literal slavery times, hello there, and then there's the one
master kind of voice.
Yeah, and then there's the one that comes after that I hear 50-year-old white guys say, which is the 70s black guy that does not exist at all either. And then finally, the 90s is the newest one. Yeah. The 90s
hip-hop
caricature
voice,
of the hip-hop voice.
Yeah.
Guys trying to sound like NWA.
It's just a little jarring for me because now, or at least maybe until Trump became president, all the cases of racism you'd hear popular would be things like Serena Williams can't wear her cat suit. And then now it's this full-blown racist character. Not that there was not worse racism occurring at all, but it was just these kinds of images and characters have not even been in popular culture at all for how long?
Yeah.
Good cartoons, though.
But let's take a break.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
Jesus Christ.
we'll be back.